We've just entered the first leg of the offseason, but already thinking about quarterback play in the Southeastern Conference and why Nico Iamaliava is going to be a top 5 quarterback in the SEC next year. I'll tell you why today. It's your Tuesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome into it, your Tuesday morning edition of Locked On Vols. Appreciate you being here, everydayers. Today is your show, and segment number 3, going to try to answer some of your questions here on the show, so looking forward to that. I'm going to talk about quarterback play in the Southeastern Conference, where Nico ranks among projected starting quarterbacks in the SEC entering next year. It's coming up in a matter of moments. Mailbag in segment 3. Linebackers. Take a look at that position. Why I think the linebackers next year can take a step like the secondary took this past season for Tennessee football. And Tennessee football has momentum, a lot of momentum heading into the offseason. One SEC personality thinks so. Who is that? And what are my thoughts on that? All that and more coming up here on a Tuesday show. Couldn't do the show without our friends over at Game Time, where you can download the Game Time app today, create an account, put in the promo code LOCKEDONCollege, and you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. That's over on the Game Time app. All right, so again, we just entered the offseason. There are going to be lists on top of lists on top of lists all throughout the offseason, but lo and behold, here we are in January, the 14th day of January, and we're already talking about quarterbacks for the SEC when the season is not even over. Now, granted, the SEC season is over because you had teams, all 3 teams in the Southeastern Conference who were college football playoff bound, Tennessee being one of them, have already bowed out. And, of course, it's going to be a Notre Dame-Ohio State battle in the national championship game coming up on January the 20th. But, there's going to be so many different lists throughout the offseason, but it's never too early, especially when we're talking about quarterbacks and we're talking about Nico Iamaliava. And so I was just kind of thinking about it, and I was doing some research, Nico and some other quarterbacks around the league who were expected to come back, and I stumbled across this list from Saturday Down South from Connor O'Gara, and he lists his top 10 quarterbacks for the SEC for the 2025 season. Again, I will remind you, there will be different renditions of this throughout the year. Maybe I'll put out my top 10 quarterbacks in the SEC maybe later this week. But I'm going to kind of pick apart and look at Connor's here. And he has Nico Iamaliava coming in at number 6. He said, the thing I like the most, and he does this about every quarterback he lists, quote, this about Nico, he's the only quarterback on this list who can say, I led my team to the playoff. And he did so without missing a start, which wasn't the case for a banged-up group of Tennessee pass catchers. Iamaliava turned into more of a game manager than a game changer, but there's nothing he's incapable of doing. He avoided grenading games while showing the ability to throw 30-yard ropes in stride to receivers. It'll be up to him to take on an even bigger role in the passing game with Dylan Sampson off to the NFL after he, not Iamaliava, was Tennessee's drive finisher, end quote. Yeah, I don't think I disagree with any of that. Certainly with the way Tennessee ran the football this year, it's always been a good running football team. Again, one of the biggest misconceptions about this Tennessee offense is that they leaned into the run this year. Well, maybe they leaned into the run by allowing one running back to tote the football 27 times on average, and that was Dylan Sampson through a stretch of SEC games. But Tennessee football has always run. 4 straight years. It's never been done in program history where the Volunteers have accumulated over 2,500 yards on the ground in 4 straight years. That's under Josh Heupel. That stretch has never happened before in Tennessee history. Again, this past football season, Tennessee ran for the second most yards in modern era in Tennessee football program history, the most yards since 1951 at 2,900 and whatever it was. Tennessee can run the football. So when you had a guy like Dylan Sampson, and because you had the emergence of a strong defense, sure, Tennessee leaned into, at least for Iamaliava, in terms of managing the game a little bit more than taking shots late in ball games, in my opinion. Now, on the road at Oklahoma, I know a lot of people were frustrated about that with the game plan and all that, but I mean, guys, sit there and think about it, right? You were down 2 starting offensive tackles. Your offensive tackle play was not good in this football game, and you did whatever you could just to win that game, and you did, right? That was the game where it truly leaned into the run and on the defense more so than anything. But I do think that Iamaliava progressing throughout the season, going through some speed bumps, going through some growing pains, especially early on in SEC play, contributing with, along with the defense in the run game, and for lack of better terms, really a pretty, I don't want to say easy schedule, but an easier schedule Yeah, you could win games that way. Tennessee won 10 games. Tennessee went to the college football playoff. Tennessee did what it was supposed to do. So I don't necessarily disagree with any of that. I do think it's obvious Nico's got to take a step. And that's the same with any quarterback coming back. Nico's got to take a step. Ceiling potential through the roof, okay? And I'm excited to see kind of what he can do. And we were talking about this on the VolQuest podcast on I think it came out today. Yeah, today, a Tuesday show. And you remove Cooper Mays, you remove Brew McCoy, you remove Dylan Sampson. This offense has no leaders. Nico, being a quarterback position, you've got to lead just at the nature of the spot. And I think that he took steps in the right direction. But Nico's not a rah-rah guy. Sometimes after he runs a little bit and gets popped or gets a late hit, he jumps up and jaws a little bit, and you love that. You love to see that as a competitor. But like, he's not the pregame, let's all circle around and get fired up type guy before kickoff. I'm not saying he's got to be that, but he has got, by default, he has got to be the leader of this football team and of this offense, because there are no other leaders on this offense right now, because Cooper's gone, Brew's gone, Dylan's gone. Now, can some other leaders emerge? Absolutely. But this is Tennessee. This is Nico's offense for sure. So anyway, Nico comes in there at number 6. Behind Nico, according to Connor O'Gara here at Saturday Down South, number 10 is Taylon Green of Arkansas. Number 9 is Gunnar Stockton of Georgia. Number 8 is Austin Simmons of Ole Miss. I think that's well above where he should be to begin things because he barely played. He did have a really, really nice drive in the second half against Georgia, and that's a reference here in the article. But Austin Simmons replacing Jackson Dart. Number 8, I think that's a little bit bullish here early on. Marcel Reed there at number 7 from Texas A&M. Nico at 6. Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt, number 5. Arch Manning at 4 with Texas. Lenore Sellers, number 3, South Carolina. DJ Lagway, 2nd from Florida. And Garrett Nussmeier, number 1, LSU. I have no qualms. I have no issues with Garrett Nussmeier being there at number 1. I think Nussmeier is going to be on a short list for the Heisman preseason, kind of following that train that LSU set with, obviously, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, and I think Garrett Nussmeier's the next best one here in terms of who could potentially, win a Heisman Trophy, or at least be on that list in that conversation, right? I think he's going to be good. DJ Lagway, you guys know my thoughts on him. I know he plays for Florida, but I mean, you'd be silly not to say that he's a good football player. He's a really, really good football player. Limited due to injuries when he finally took over, still was able to help Florida win 4 games, 4 of the last 5 games, go on and have 9 wins, 8 wins. Got to a bowl game, obviously, and then just drilled Tulane in the bowl game. I think DJ Lagway is going to be a good one. Number 2, I don't hate it. Maybe you put Lenore Sellers up there just because he's done it before. I think Lenore Sellers is a really, really good football player. I have no issues there. Arch Manning's interesting because, yeah, coming out of high school, and again, I'm around the recruiting world, right? I'm not in the weeds like I was a couple of years ago, but I'm around it. I work for VolQuest.com. It's an On3 affiliate. We are a fan site. The recruiting or the lifeline of our sites are the message boards and recruiting. So it pays the bills. And I thought coming out, Arch Manning was a bit overrated. I truly did buy into the whole, it's who he is. It's the name. What I saw from Arch Manning this year in, 3 starts whenever, Quinn Ewers was out due to injury, and kind of the role they used him in, coming in 3rd and 4th down running, and why they didn't run him 4 times on the goal line there in the college football playoff, I have no clue. What a coaching malpractice right there on the goal line, just pathetic by Sark. But nonetheless, I'm intrigued to see what Arch Manning does. I think he was a little turnover happy in one of those games. Was it Louisiana Monroe where he had like 4 touchdowns, 2 or 3 picks, but 2 picks. Overall, really good. 10 total touchdowns, couple of rushing, 8 passing. I thought he showed good touch. I thought he showed good accuracy. I think he's super athletic. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. Is he too high on this list for right now? Maybe. We've already seen Diego Pavia, what he can do at Vanderbilt, number 5, and of course Nico here at number 6. I would flip-flop Nico and Diego Pavia. I would probably have Nico ahead of Arch Manning right now as well, because Nico's put forth an entire season worth of starts and stats, and you could see him growing, and you saw the throws he made to beat Alabama, and you saw, what he did in big-time matchups. Again, I'm not saying Vanderbilt's a juggernaut, but 4 touchdown passes, all play action. Stuff like that. We've seen what Nico can do. We haven't seen a full season of Arch Manning, and Pavia I think is a fantastic player and a fantastic story, but I do think that his quarterback play, I'm surprised that he lasted as long as he did because he runs so much. He gets battered and bruised and beat up. Plus his accuracy when things aren't going well is not great. Look at how he performed against Tennessee at the end of the season. It was not a good game for him whatsoever. I would have this list starting with Garrett Nussmeier, DJ Lagway, Lenore Sellers. Okay, so combination there. Maybe flip-flop Sellers and Lagway for now. I'd probably have Nico at 4th, Pavi at 5, Arch at 6 is kind of how I do it. And then, we can get into the weeds and talk about the rest of the rankings a little bit later. Quarterback play was a little bit down in the Southeastern Conference this year. Coming into 2025, I would make the case that it's not, where the pedigree of the Southeastern Conference usually is at the quarterback position, but there's a long time between now and September, and we'll have this conversation several more times. But number 6, quarterback in the Southeastern Conference, too high? Too low? Just about right? I would say it's probably too low. I think he should be up there a little bit, and that's not to say that I think Nico has arrived. That's not to say that I think Nico is fantastic. I've been on record, and I'll continue to be on record. He has got to take a step, a not a small step. He's got to take a pretty large step. But I think that he's capable of doing all that, and you saw some flashes this year, and I honestly do believe that if you have some better players around him, he's going to elevate his game a little bit. I do believe that. Got to protect him, though, and that's a conversation for another day as well. When we come back, we'll jump into our linebacker conversation, and before we get to that, we'll talk about a SEC personality that thinks Tennessee's got some momentum heading into the offseason. All that and more. That's coming up next. We continue on here with this Tuesday morning edition, that is, of Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere, as I can't find the button. There we go. Attending the new 12-team college football playoff games is an incredible experience that brings fans together like never before. I remember the excitement of the past playoff games and can't wait to make new memories with the updated format and extra teams involved. It's been a heck of a playoff so far. I know Tennessee was out in the first round, but anybody thinking that the expanded college football playoffs are silly or not fun, I don't know. I mean, sure, there's been some blowouts there. Was it absolutely needed? No, but was it wanted? Heck yeah, it's more football. Conversation another day. Game Time has the new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events easier than ever. It filters out fluff, show you only the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I used the Game Time app to buy some tickets to a Tennessee basketball game a couple of weeks ago. Browsed through the deals with a breeze, found great value, all kinds of seats around the venue. The Super Deal in particular stood out to me as the best value for the event. No hidden fees at checkout, lowest price up front, all that in mind. Gave me the peace of mind really throughout the process. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, put in the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create that account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. SEC personality that believes Tennessee's got a whole lot of momentum heading into the offseason. I wanted to highlight this comment real quick because we had this discussion. We compared Tennessee and Florida a couple weeks ago. Who has more momentum heading into the offseason? Well, from an outsider's perspective, you would have to think it's Tennessee, right? Tennessee, 10 wins, college football playoff, quarterback coming back. I mean, this was a good year. But for those of us that are Tennessee fans that are in the weeds and know everything about this team, we follow it day by day, it's like, goodness gracious, man, your quarterback could have been so much better. Man, you're losing Dylan Sampson. Oh my gosh, James Pierce. Oh my gosh, transfer portal. You've only gotten 2 guys. What's going on? Are we broke? Our coaching staff's awful. What's happening? And oh yeah, you lost your 2 biggest games of the year on the road in true road environments, Georgia and Ohio State, where quite frankly, you didn't even show up. So I understand some of the frustrations and lack of faith there. I get it. I truly get it. But from an outsider's perspective, I mean, Tennessee's got a ton of momentum heading in the offseason. This SEC personality believes so as well. That is Paul Feinbaum. Everybody loves Paul, right? Paul making his weekly appearance Monday morning on McElroy and Kublik in the morning show, 104.5 Jocks. And he said, quote, "I think on one level, I like Tennessee because even though we've all completely forgotten them because of the loss to Ohio State, I do think the momentum that Josh Heupel has going is very impressive to me." That's all he said about Tennessee. But he was one of 2 teams. Tennessee was one of 2 teams that he mentioned in terms of momentum in the conference heading into the offseason. His other one, I won't read the entire quote, but take it for what it is. His other one was Auburn, which makes no sense to me. Sure, you got a quarterback out of the transfer portal. That's great. But Auburn was not a very good football team, right? So got to take that for what it is. But Paul Feinbaum believes that Tennessee's got some momentum heading in the offseason. And again, from an outsider's perspective, Tennessee absolutely does. It's just those of us in the weeds, it's kind of hard to say that because it's like, oh my gosh, they lost to Ohio State, Georgia, and all that and more. I think Tennessee's linebackers, okay, we continue this series of our positional look-aheads. I think Tennessee's linebackers have the potential, and I think they will. They're going to take a step, just like the secondary did in 2024. Now, we like to equate what happened with the secondary this year to maybe what's to come on the offensive line moving forward, or maybe even wide receiver. Not completely a reset like in those for those two positions like it was in the secondary this past year, but there's a lot of changing. That wouldn't be the case for linebacker play. Linebackers, you're returning a ton, and you're returning guys with a lot of experience. You could almost make the case that the linebacker room now is a little bit like the secondary was for the first 3 years in the system. Same old guys. I'm not ready to say there yet. I'm not ready to go there yet because these two linebackers, Arion Carter and Jeremiah Telander, still young. They're rising juniors, so they're not young on the football field anymore, but still relatively young and have a whole lot more in front of them to get better. You return those two starters, right? Arion Carter, who I think was clearly Tennessee's best linebacker when Keenan Peely went down with injury, led the team with 68 tackles, 6 TFLs, 1 interception, 6 pass breakups, 3 quarterback hurries. Pro Football Focus graded him at 61% on 611 defensive snaps, only 11 missed tackles and 13 games played, so that's a decent number. Plenty of room to get better, but Arion Carter's a good football player, and that goes back to a huge recruiting win that Tennessee had over Alabama close to signing day back for the class of 2024. Jeremiah Telander, he's a more in-the-box guy. Sure, that's true. 13 games, moved into a starting role once Keenan Peely went out with injury. 43 tackles, 4th on the team. Recovered 3 fumbles, has a nose for the football, does Telander. Was a part of the regular rotation from day one, even when Peely was healthy. 456 defensive snaps played, graded out at 64.5. Only missed 5 tackles. That's a really good number. Only missed 5 tackles in 13 games played. So you start with those two guys that I still think are young, experienced, but have another level to get to. And I truly do believe in their skill set playing linebacker, especially with all the experience that they've had so far, that they're going to take that step. Edwin Spillman, I'm excited about. He would have been a part of the rotation from day one if he would have stayed healthy, but he had to miss 9 regular season games due to a couple of different injuries. Former Lipscomb Academy native that was, a mid-semester enrollee, got to campus in the very beginning of March, and then just was, going a million miles an hour, not knowing what to do in spring ball, but you could see that it was there. He came back for the Vanderbilt season finale before his injuries against Arkansas and before he missed more games after the Arkansas game. That was his first game back. Missed the first 2 or 3 games of the year. My point is, first game back, SEC play, he was down there playing critical snaps, both against Arkansas and Vanderbilt. A guy that's got a unique skill set that I think is going to be a really, really good linebacker for Tennessee. Then you bring back Jordan Burns, who, redshirted this year, played in 1 game, totaled 4 snaps, had a couple of tackles on a TFL against UTEP. We'll see how good Jordan Burns can turn into, but he was hurt and he redshirted most of this year. You're losing Keenan Peely. It's unfortunate. I thought Keenan Peely would be a fine football player for Tennessee, but he tore his tricep after during game one of his first start with Tennessee back in 2023. Missed the rest of the year. Played in 4 or 5 games this year. Missed the back half of the season with a torn ACL, and it stinks. Good leader, good football player. I think Tennessee's linebackers struggle without him. I do. But it's not like Tennessee's got to replace that production, or it's not like Tennessee's got to find a way to play without Keenan Peely, because they've been playing without Keenan Peely the last couple of years. They just have to take a step and get better. Easier said than done. You're losing Jalen Smith. Okay, he signed with Mississippi State. You're losing Caleb Perry. He signed with Louisville. Those 2 guys, fine players. Okay, they were in the rotation. Fine players. I think that they're replaceable big time. And so if I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm not worried too much about those laws. No disrespect to those guys. I cover their recruitments. They're fine. Caleb Perry's a fine player. But I think that they can, I think moving to Louisville is a good move for Perry, and we'll see what happens with Smith. I'm excited about this class of newcomers, man. Tennessee's bringing back 3 veterans, experienced veterans, and adding 4 more to the group that I think is going to be really, really solid. Christian Gass, highly rated 4-star. He can play either in the box or down at Leo. I'll be intrigued to see where Tennessee kind of likes him in this scheme. Tennessee had to hang on desperately. Georgia wanted him so bad, but he stuck with his commitment to Tennessee. 6'2", 220 pounds, the number 102nd prospect in the country in the recruiting process. 10th linebacker, 10th best player out of the state of Georgia. Jaden Harmon, again, committed to Alabama. Tennessee got him to flip, and then Tennessee had to hold on because Alabama wasn't going away Harmon stuck with his commitment to Tennessee, runs really, really well sideline to sideline. I think these two guys are going to play, and they're going to be a factor for Tennessee for sure at the linebacker position. Harmon ranked 109th prospect in the country, 11th linebacker right behind Gass, 13th player out of the state of Georgia, and a guy that I think is going to make an immediate impact. Jaden Perlotti's interesting, right? UCLA, Southern Cal, Tennessee had to get him away from the West Coast. And, they were in it early on, and then it seemed like he was going to stay out there. So Tennessee went and signed Brendan Ains from Page High School in the Mid-States, and who was formerly committed to Wisconsin, flipped to Tennessee. A nice in-state prospect that I think is going to be a great special teams player and add depth right away. But then Perlotti wanted to come back and wanted to be in this class, so Tennessee said, hey, come on, we got room for you. 6'3", 200 pounds, good instincts, second-layer player of the defense, top 400 player in the cycle. And that gives Tennessee 4 linebackers in this class. You just continue to replenish, right? Rinse, repeat, sign, develop, move on, recruit, sign, develop, move on. That's just kind of the way of life in college athletics. And I really, really like this group of linebackers for Tennessee. I think that they're going to be really, really good. All right, so can Tennessee take that step? Can Tennessee take a step like the secondary did in 2024 with experience, with athleticism and some speed for the most part of the linebacker position, the speed which you need in this era of college football. Linebackers of old, big old 260-pound brutes. It's not the case anymore. You need 215, 220-pound guys that can run. And Tennessee's linebackers, for the most part, can run. And I think that's why Tennessee's going to take a step, much like the secondary in 2024, this upcoming football season in 2025. All right, mailbag questions when you guys get to take over the show, you everydayers. That is coming up next as we continue on here with this Tuesday morning edition of Locked On Vols. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find decluttering and refreshing my space helps me get back into a routine. Whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look to start the year, Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget. I'm currently looking for some furniture. Huge selection, new house, right? New selection makes it easy to find the pieces that fit my style and, more importantly, my wife's style and my budget. My favorite part, the free and hassle-free delivery, even for the larger items. Wayfair's site was easy to navigate, and I found everything I needed in no time. There's something for every style, every home, no matter your space or your budget. Wayfair makes it easy to tackle your New Year's home goals with endless inspiration for space and style. What is your decor style? What did you pick these items, and why do you love them so much? All those answers, or all those questions, can be answered at Wayfair when you go and check out their selections. Give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head on over to wayfair.com right now. That is Wayfair, Wayfair, Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. That is Wayfair. Every Tuesday, we answer mailbag questions where you guys can always submit them at _Cain or at Locked On Vols on the YouTube channel as well. We're going to start with some everydayers on the YouTube channel. Blue Collar Patriot says, hey, Eric, do you know if the new deal with Boo Carter had to do with NIL and playing on both sides of the ball? I think he'd be dynamic on offense. However, starting on defense, playing offense, doing punt return seems like a lot and has a high chance of injury. Keep up the great content, GPO. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I think Boo... And that's just the norm now, guys. You've got roster retention, and so many fans are frustrated with Tennessee's lack of movement in the transfer portal. And that's fair. They need to go out and get some more guys. I agree at certain positions. But so much of it, especially immediately after the college football playoff loss, where, that was Christmas week, if you remember, and then next week was New Year's week. And all the other teams in the country already got a jump start on all this back when the portal first opened on the 8th of December or after their final regular season game at the end of November. It's roster retention. And, it's annoying a lot of times when you have players that announce that they're coming back for their sophomore year or their junior year. It's like, well, no duh, right? But that's the era that we're in. They can go to the transfer portal. They can move on. And you have to rework deals to keep your best players. And Boo Carter was one of those. And I think at the end of the I'm sure they had to up his package a little bit with NIL opportunities, but I think a lot of that conversation was, hey, I see Travis Hunter. I see what he's doing. He just won a Heisman Trophy. Why can't I do that? I covered him in high school for a little bit. I had a couple of games that we called with him on television. He is dynamic with the ball in his hands. We all see this as punt returner, right? I think that there's an opportunity for him to help on offense. Now, Anybody thinking right now that he's going to be Travis Hunter, that's just not realistic right away. Anybody thinking that he's going to be Tennessee's starting slot receiver, that's not going to happen. Anybody thinking that he's going to play 30, 40 snaps a game on offense, that is probably not going to happen, especially early on. But can he have a minor role? Can he get a series here and there? Can he be a package player? Absolutely. And I think that's kind of what a lot of those conversations were about. Can I get an opportunity to help on offense? And I certainly do believe that was part of Boo's process, Boo Carter and his team's process when they came to a new agreement with the Volunteer Club to remain at Tennessee. Keg 2071, Cainer, what will be the strengths of this year's baseball team? Good question. Again, it's a typical Tony Vitello club. They're going to hit, they're going to pitch. A lot of the arms on the mound we're unfamiliar with right now because so many have left the last couple of years. Liam Doyle, transfer from Ole Miss, is probably going to be your opening day starter. You might have a true freshman in Tegan Coons, who will be your number 2 to begin the season. Number 3, we'll see. There's plenty of arms in the bullpen that are capable of starting on the mound. Dylan Lloyd, Nate Snead, Phillips. So a couple of JUCO guys, Brandon Arvidsson, Thomas Crabtree, Tanner Wiggins. I mean, all those guys are capable of helping. So I'm intrigued to see kind of what that number 3 starter spot's going to look like. And it can evolve as the season goes along. There can be some piggybacks in there like Nate Snead did last year until Xander Seacrest truly emerges. We'll see. But I'm excited to see the arms on the mound, but this offense is going to rake. Dean Curley in the middle of that order is going to be phenomenal. Andrew Fisher is going to hit close to 30 home runs. Gavin Keelan's going to be a guy that's pushing, in my opinion, 330 at the plate. I'm excited to see those guys. Hunter Inslee's back. Reese Chapman, can you find some consistency? We'll see. Cannon Peebles, can you be the guy that you were your true freshman season in the dish at the dish with NC State and an offseason with Tennessee last year? We'll find out. I'm excited to see what all these guys look like. I think the lineup is going to be really, really good. And Jay Abernathy, a true freshman, I think is going to be fun to watch. And I do believe that he's going to be an everyday player before it's all said and done. Let's go to, got a couple more. Let's see. This is from Trevor. He sent a screenshot of Rick Barnes coach basketball teams versus the non-Rick Barnes coach players. Let me rephrase that. He sent 2 different teams, an all Rick Barnes coach player team at Tennessee and the rest of the players in Tennessee basketball history that were not coached by Rick Barnes. And Trevor's Barnes team lineup was point guard Zakai Ziegler, shooting guard Chaz Lanier, small forward Dalton Connect, power forward Grant Williams, center Kyle Alexander, 6th man was Kennedy Chandler. He asked me to say, he asked me to give his thoughts on that and then, give my team if I had any revisions. That's a pretty good team. That team's going to win a whole lot of games, don't get me wrong, right? My revisions would be this. Point guard, I go Jordan Bone. Shooting guard, I don't want to just put Chaz Lanier there because he's there now, but the more I think about it, the more I think that'd be the right move. So I'd have Chaz Lanier there as shooting guard. Dalton Connect would absolutely be my small forward. Grant Williams would absolutely be my power forward. And kind of by default, the center, and that's no disrespect to him, but I would also go Kyle Alexander. My 6th, 7th, and 8th men in this rotation, Lamonte Turner, Admiral Schofield, and then there's a conversation to be had with Jordan Bowden or John Fulkerson. I would probably go Bowden, but Fulkerson absolutely needs to be in that conversation. For the non-Rick Barnes coach team, this is the field that you had, Trevor. Coach Bruce Pearl, point guard Allen Houston, shooting guard Chris Lofton, small forward Bernard King, power forward Ernie Grunfield, center Reggie Johnson, and 6th man Dale Ellis. That's pretty good. Mine would be, I think Houston played the 2 at Tennessee more, so I'd have Tony White at point guard, Allen Houston at shooting guard. Small forward, I would have Grunfield. I think Ernie's there at small forward. Bernard King's at power forward, okay? And then I have Reggie Johnson there at center as well. I would also have Chris Lofton. I would have Dale Ellis, and potentially, if you want another big man at the 5, Tom Bowerwinkle, who was a former 4th overall pick in the NBA draft. I would have there as well. Fun conversation. We could honestly do a whole show on that. But Trevor, good stuff. I wanted to bring that on the show and kind of talk about it a little bit. Braden wants to know, how do you foresee the run game moving forward next season? More by committee, not just one guy. I have no Tennessee ran the football for over 2,500 yards with Jabari Small and Tyon Evans. That was back in 21. Jabari Small is a fine player, really good college player, especially in the scheme. Tennessee can run the football. We've seen it's proven, right? Now, will they be knocking on the door of 3,000 yards on the ground next season? I don't know, probably not. But instead of, again, Dylan Sampson, 27 carries in a game, Peyton Lewis, 13, Deshaun Bishop, 11, somebody else, maybe a couple. I see it being more like committee than anything else. Going to run through these here. Got a couple minutes left. We'll go to Andrew. Does inactivity in the portal mean some guys are unexpectedly coming back that could move on? Is the roster full, or are the coaches just happy with the roster as constructed? No, there's a number of different layers here. It costs money to play football nowadays, right? Tennessee kept, for the most part, its roster intact. That was not cheap. Tennessee's trying to get some guys to come and visit. Some guys wouldn't. Tennessee made competitive offers for some guys who elected to go somewhere else for cheaper money at that point in time. It's all about fit, coaching, playing opportunity, NFL development, potential NIL opportunities, all that and more. Tennessee's trying to make the roster better. I wouldn't say that they're just happy as is. They always want more and more depth. But it's just kind of a work in progress. Tennessee is at the point and stage where they're not just going to take somebody to take somebody. They're wanting to take somebody that can either, be an impact player. At this point, I think you need to take somebody at running back. That's just my opinion. But you're not going to overpay. Like, again, if you want to add somebody for depth, you're not going to go overpay for somebody to come in and be a third-string back or to be a fourth-string wide receiver. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be smart about this type of stuff. So it's to be continued. I think the coaching staff's still very much trying to improve this roster. I think the spring portal window is going to be in play very much for Tennessee. I think we'll have some more answers to the questions after spring practice. But they're still working. It's a combination of a lot of different things. But overall, it's not panic mode for the coaching staff. There's a lot of belief in these young players on the roster, and at some point you got to play them, especially on the offensive line, or you will lose these guys. And I think that's kind of where you're at right now. Tim Banks is back, right? We'll see. I think more than likely he's still Tennessee's defensive coordinator. His contract officially expires at the end of this month. We know he's had a new contract on his desk. All he's got to do is sign it. Penn State's defensive coordinator position just opened up yesterday. Will Tim Banks be a player there? How did he and James Franklin leave things off? Would he have any interest in going back to Happy Valley? I don't know. We'll see. But I think more than likely at this point, I would say that he's back for Tennessee. That's just, again, my opinion. Things can change. A couple more here from Jared. Don't know if you saw the piece that Charles Power put out a few days ago about the success rate of 3-and-out college quarterbacks in the NFL, but considering Nico is entering year 3, should he seriously consider staying for a 4th year, even if projected to be a first-round top pick? If Nico is projected as a first-round top pick, he needs to go. He absolutely needs to go. If he's projected as borderline first-round, second-round, that's a conversation. If he's anything lower than a second round, I think you need to come back because Nico's a guy that can absolutely improve his stock, and what's the word I'm trying to look for? You're good if you're a high level quarterback in college football right now. You're good if you come back and play football. Like, look at Carson Beck. He's going to Miami. He got a huge payday, 1 year, $4 million reportedly. Like, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna be taken care of. So for Nico the plan was always for Nico to come here 3 years, go to the NFL draft. Well, in order for that plan to be a reality, Nico's got to take a huge step in 2025. So that step's got to happen first. But if he's projected, if his feedback and talking with scouts after the season next year is that he's first round top 10, he's got to go, in my opinion, for sure. As a follow-up, what should be Heupel's pitch to quarterback recruits? A, get to the NFL fast, take the first round top 10 money now, or B, stay at least 4 years, get experience, we'll pay you. Injury can always happen, but your odds of long-term success and profitability in the NFL increase. We'll see. Josh Heupel's not had a quarterback yet that's done the whole gets to the NFL fast, take the first-round money. Hendon Hooker's on a roster right now. Joe Milton, we just saw what he did in his first playing time in New England. We saw all that. You can point to those success stories, okay? But so far, Josh Heupel's not coached a quarterback here at Tennessee that has that first-round top 10 money. So I think A is out. But B is stay here, get coached, you'll be compensated. You'll learn, you'll get the better, you'll develop, and then when you're ready, we want to be an instrument and a tool to get you to the National Football League. That's all recruiting is nowadays, right? We want to help you reach your goals because everybody's talking about the NFL. Your end game is not Tennessee. Your end game is the Dallas Cowboys or whatever team out there, right? I think the recruiting pitch for Heupel should be, point to success stories that you've already had, obviously, but also say you're going to be well compensated. Come in here and play in the best, toughest league ever, get the tools to develop, and look at the guys what I've already done and see what they're doing in the NFL. Last one here, and I am not reading the handle out loud because I already did that and I had to edit it out. Why do you think we can't land elite safeties? Something we need, in my opinion. Look at the huge impact of Caleb Downs. If he had someone 3/4 of his talent, huge improvement. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, Tennessee's recruiting-wise, Tennessee's done well at corner. Tennessee's done well at linebacker. Tennessee's done well on the defensive line. Recruiting-wise, Tennessee's done well at wide receiver. Tennessee's done well at quarterback. I'm just trying to think of star ratings the last couple of cycles. Tennessee's, got the number one offensive tackle in the country, David Sanders. Tennessee's got some tight ends they like. Safety really is, in terms of star rating, which isn't everything. That's the one position that Tennessee hasn't really excelled at recruiting. I think development is more important than recruiting, obviously. But yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, Tennessee needs to be better in terms of, in my opinion, evaluating and being in the big boy races. Now, that's not to say that the guys that they have in the signing class that are a little lower rated, they don't have faith in. Those guys jumped in the boat, or with the exception of Timothy Merritt, who Tennessee very much wanted and got a flip from Miami. The Sidney Waltons of the world and some of these other guys, even the cornerbacks, Dylan Lewis's and Tyler Redmond's, those guys were early commits in this class, right? That goes to show me that they were priorities for Tennessee, that they liked their makeup. But yeah, I think it could stand the reason to go and, be in more big boy races in terms of some of the better prospects in the cycle at that position for sure. As always, thank you guys so much. Appreciate the questions, the comments, the concerns at _Cain or at Locked On Vols. We do it every Tuesday. Every day, or as you know, it is the Mailbag edition of the show. When we come back on a Wednesday show, we'll talk with Josh Ward for Little Ward Wednesday. We'll continue to get you set for Tennessee basketball coming up, Tennessee against Georgia, and so much more. All that and more every single day right here. This is Locked On Vols.